Well, a very good morning and welcome to Italy for the next round of the Tour de Ski. Not a bad journey for the athletes from Switzerland. We're now in, well, quite close to Cortina, just north of Cortina d'Ampezzo, Dobbiaco, and of course this is round 4 of the Tour de Ski, and that's obviously the first programme coming up. The men's 10-kilometre classic, an unusual distance in the Tour, should be a fascinating race. Then we go to the biathlon in Oberhof, the first race since the Christmas break. Who's going to be on form there? A women's relay, the only race on the card today. And then back to the Tour de Ski for the women's 5-kilometre classic. Marit Bjørgen looking to make it 4 out of 4. Can she go the whole way this season in the Tour de Ski without losing? It's a real challenge. I don't think you get very good odds on her winning the Tour at this stage, Mike, but it certainly is not a foregone conclusion. Heidi Weng's looking good. Johaug still up there in the top 3 with a chance.
Very much, but Bjørgen, and she states every day how amazing she's feeling. I don't think she's touchable today, and I don't think she's really touchable through to the top of the climb on the final day. She's looking that good for me.
Quick break, we'll be back with the start. Well, welcome back to Dobbiaco for round 4 of the Tour de Ski. 7 races in all, as I'm sure you know, in the 9-day period. We finish on Sunday with the ascent of the Alpe d'Huez, and both men and women racing today. A sprint race yesterday in Valmüster in Switzerland. Those who went the whole way are going to find it difficult to recover. Less than 24 hours to do that. Marit Bjørgen has been on sensational form. She made it through to the final. Let's have a look at the closing stages of that women's final. And you don't need the Norwegian suit identifying at this stage of the season. They have 1, 2, 3 and 4 in this race, just as they have 1, 2, 3 and 4 in the World Cup standings. But standing out of the pack is Marit Bjørgen, and a massive lead she gained.
Over the years, Patrick, it's so rare to see such a huge gap, and she only created that gap in the final lap of 2 laps. Incredible.
And a great finish by Weng and Osberg. Weng coming in to finish in 2nd place, and that could prove crucial come the end of the Tour.
My shape is very good. My legs is so good, and when I have perfect skis, the guys in the cabin is so incredible and do a very good job, and then it's easier to go also with good skis and good legs, then it will go fast.
Well, you need good lungs, you need a good heart, you need a good head as well. It's not just about the skis, but nice to see her praising the technicians. Now, the men's race was every bit as exciting. Sundby wearing 4 on the outside, accelerating on the 2nd climb, as we saw him do in the semi-finals. At this stage, it looks as though Sundby might snatch a win in a sprint, which would have been a surprise. But Northug was coming strong. But Pellegrino of Italy coming even stronger in the closing stages to get a win that will keep him on a high for the next month and a half.
Wasn't that such a pity for Sundby? He glanced right when Pellegrino came past, and then he was amazed to look left and see that, well, instead of 1st, it was 3rd.
I'm very happy. Today was another day, another fantastic day. In the finish, a bit better. And Martin, for me, it was a dream. Today, I realize it.
Well done to him. Pellegrino looking every bit the sprinter. I'm afraid that's it for the sprinters, and I always think it's a little shame when we see so many of them pulling out of the Tour, because they liven it up and they produce some unusual results. But it's all about endurance, it's all about distance from here to the finish of the Tour de Ski. And for me, Mike, there are 6 men who can still win it. Dario Colonia in 6th place. You cannot rule him out, surely. I know he's a minute and 3 seconds behind, but he's capable of unbelievable results. Alex Harvey in 5th, 54 seconds down, outside bet, but he's looked pretty good. Belov of Russia looks strong in the sprints. We know he can do the distance in 4th. Then you've got Halvorsen of Sweden, who looks so determined that he might get himself into the top spot through that alone. And Sundby and Northug in 2nd and 1st position, respectively. Only 25 seconds between Northug and Sundby. And this is a stage of the Tour where Sundby turned it up last year.
It is quite wide open, isn't it? And when you look at the whole race structure, it's day 4 of 7 days of racing, but then really anything can happen. The fatigue begins to hit now, especially after the sprints yesterday. So we'll have to wait and see. Will Northug be tired today? Dario is going to be angry that he didn't make it through to the final, so he's going to be strong today, we can say for sure.
Well, he's going to be a bit fresh than the others who had to go through that last round of the sprint. And, well, have a look at that. It could be springtime. It could be September with the lack of snow around at the moment. Those are the south-facing slopes. They always suffer somewhat. The tracks aren't in bad condition, but it does mean that we've got a change in the race programme for tomorrow.
That's right. Instead of the big point-to-point 35-kilometre, it seems like the jury have made the decision based on the fact that it's only this 5-kilometre track of snow they have. I think they're reducing it to 25 kilometres. Hellner was slipping there before he stopped. Wax not working well.
So we have 5-6 minutes or so before the start of the men's 10-kilometre classic, and we'll talk about the change of the course for tomorrow after this short break and how that might affect Petter Northug. Well, the atmosphere starting to build here in Toblach Dobiako, and the men have drawn the short straw. They're first off this morning. Well, we've seen some great results so far in the Tour. I think at this moment in time, an opportunity to mention
skiing in your first Tour de Ski. We
Americans.
start stage 4 shortly. How has the experience been for you?
I love the Tour de Ski. It seems really cool, like going to different
Eric
races.
Bjornsson, of course, the
every
brother of
other
Sadie.
day, and just keeping it going. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot.
And we know you're a strong classic skier. I think 15 Classics may be your favorite. How is 10-kilometer Classic? It's not so long, but it's also not so short.
Well, last year I had my best result of the season here in Toblach, and I skied 10K really hard with Marcus Hellner, so I'm just going to be picturing Marcus in front of me today and just try to keep that speed up.
All right, well, good luck here in a few minutes.
Thank you.
We'll see how he gets on. Not a bad day for Simeon Hamilton. He didn't repeat his win of last year yesterday, but he still put up a good show.
He put up a very good show, 30th on the qualification round, and he improved on that during the subsequent sprint, so he's got to be pleased with that. Eric, though, Bjornsson, we saw him interviewed 4:31 off the pace, so he's really got to try and add if he can. He's not likely to, but hold that under 5 minutes performance.
Well, it's a time trial format with, of course, the top seeds in the Tour de Ski going off last, and then in between each of the top seeds there will be a lesser ranked skier, so the big guns will be a minute apart. Kalle Halvorsen, certainly one of the men we need to watch out for. Impressed with him. Sundby, runners-up position at the moment. Remember, he is the defending champion, and having seen him put on a couple of bursts yesterday, it doesn't surprise me that he's in such a good position. But it's Petter Northug who leads the Tour. 25 seconds his lead at the moment. How much does he need? A minute 25 by Saturday evening?
I like the way he's looking now. He's got all of his attitude back when he's at his best, and I think he could survive a 45-second lead if that's possible for him to gain that into the final day. I think he could survive that to the top of the final climb.
Yeah, he's lost a little bit of weight. He's been altitude training over Christmas. Certainly one of our regular viewers out in Montana in USA, Andrew, reckoning that Northug's in good shape, but he still thinks his money is on Sundby and Dario Colonia, and I think I'm probably with you there, Andrew. That was the profile of the course, as I'm sure you picked up. 2 times round, a 5-kilometre loop for the men. It's a basically up and down course, isn't it, Mike, with a lot of graft going into the first 2 kilometres of the loop.
Very much so, and it's a short race. This is only the 3rd time that there's been a 10-kilometre classic in the Tour de Ski in its 9-year history, so it's a race that the men aren't overly familiar with. and certainly those first 2.2 kilometres are all uphill.
Andy Musgrave starting number 24. Hopefully he can just improve his position. At this stage last year he was well below his current ranking, so we could be looking at a top 20 finish for Andrew Musgrave in the Tour de Ski this season. I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility.
Yeah, Muzzy's only 2:12 behind in the current rankings. It's brilliant.
Now we're getting to the big guns with Marcus Hellner going off 46, Simeon Hamilton 51, Niskanen, he's good when he's good. What he's going to do today, we'll just have to wait and find out. And here are the top seeds. Decenta goes 61, the veteran Italian, just before Alex Harvey, who'll be hoping to move up at least one place. He'll try and catch Yevgeny Belov, but Sumbi and Nortug are the last two of the big seeds to get underway today. How much of an advantage in these conditions to be going late? You've got to remember it's 2 times round 5 kilometres, so the tracks are pretty cut up by the time Sumbi and Nortug even start, but they do have the advantage of knowing what their rivals are doing.
I think it's a huge advantage. Sumbi says that then we're in the yellow bib, but he's not going last today. He says when he goes last, it's a great feeling to know everything that's happening in front of you. You can alter your pace, you can hold your pace. So I think for Nortug, there he is. It is an advantage to be starting last.
Double Olympic champion, 9-time world champion, the maverick of the cross-country skiing world. And like him or hate him, you have to admit that he makes cross-country skiing worth watching, because you just can't predict the results. So many endurance sports, Mike. The guy who's leading at halfway is twice as far ahead at the finish. It doesn't happen in biathlon because of the shooting. It doesn't happen in cross-country because Petter Nortug is still there.
It's so true. And he changed his strategy yesterday in the sprint. He said for the first time he wanted to lead it from the gun, which he did, but it didn't really work for him. Second was great, but normally we'd expect him first.
Well, are we going to see another Italian victory here? We've moved to Italy. I don't think Giorgio Decenta can pull a win out of the bag. It would be sensational. It'd be nice to see him in the running, but he's getting on a bit. Nice to see him on the Tour, and he's one of very few men who's done all the editions of the Tour de Ski. Petter Nortug, of course, is the only man to have finished in the top 10 of every edition so far, and more often than not he's on the podium, but he's yet to win it. So the first competitor on the line, Sinsov of Bulgaria, underway in that recognisable suit of his. He will set the pace. I wonder how long he can stay ahead. Andy Kuhn of Germany starting after him, and once we've seen Andy onto the snow, Mike, maybe you can give us your impression of the German team and compare it to the German team a decade ago.
It's not looking that great for the German team this year at the Tour de Ski. They've had victories in the past. Overall Tour winner, of course, Toby Angerer. But the ranking at the moment, it's not great. Thomas Bing looks to be about the best, and he's some 3 minutes off the pace. So they need to pick it up. There's still 3 days of racing left.
And Tim Schanker, of course, who starts amongst the seeds. We've got Dmitry Yaparov just signing his name on the board. I often wonder where those glass perspex boards go to. I guess one of the local hotels may bid for it and raise a bit of money for charity. There's Jonas Baumann of Switzerland just starting. The Swiss, of course, will be waiting to see if Dario Cologna can do anything. 1 minute and 3 seconds behind for Cologna, the man who has won the Tour de Ski on 3 occasions, trying to make it 4 this year, and equal Justina Kowalczyk, who's won 4 but doesn't look as though she's going to win her 5th this season.
No, a lot of work for Kowalczyk coming up later. 10Ks, she's won 20 10-kilometre classic races in her career. She's very good. Hopefully she can do it again. Gaillard, he's very good. Well, classic, maybe his weakness, if he has a weakness in his cross-country game.
Yeah, most of his good results coming in the freestyle events. He's 34 years old now, comes from Ethieu. And like a lot of the French, he's a customs officer. The Germans are mostly soldiers. That's the way that a lot of nations fund their athletes. Sweden and Norway, I think they make enough money to survive on their own. They're well sponsored.
They certainly are. Anderson, the man from the Falun area, so he's hoping he'll get a slot in the Swedish team for the World Championships. Certainly performed well here.
Yeah, and on the subject of the Swedish skiers and the World Championships, Mike, Emil Jonsson has decided he's had enough of the Tour. He now wants to prepare himself for the World Champs. And the same with Nielsen in the Women's Tour, which is a little bit of a shame because she was going so well.
But I think that's great sense from the coaches. She's very young, and to let her have a run out for 3 of the races here and do so well, perform so well, I think it's sensible.
So from Zellermelis, it's Thomas Wick of Germany. He's almost 3 minutes off the pace in the Tour. Doesn't sound that much, but what will be the total time for the men's racing? It won't be much more than 3 hours for the 7 legs over the 9-day period. So 3 minutes is quite a high percentage, and he's not going to feature in the top 5 or 6. Turishev now for Russia.
I think, talking about Russians, I think they've been a little disappointing at the races here. Bersmenchik today is going to go well, I'm quite sure. But last year, of course, Legkov was destroying. He didn't do well in the sprints, but of course he went on to win the Tour.
Or 2 years ago.
Sorry, 2 years ago, of course.
There's Andy Musgrave. Still looks fairly lively. Had quite a hard day out yesterday. Both Brits getting through to the first knockout round of the sprint, which means you've got to finish in the top 30 of the time trial. That is a massive achievement. You can't belittle what they achieved yesterday. It just would have been so good to see one of them getting through to the semi-finals.
And I must admit, Andrew Young, for me, he was so nearly there, got his strategy perfect, looked so strong in the sprints, and I think over the years a lot more to come from Andrew Young.
In the sprints?
In the sprints. I think mainly he'll be looking more towards the sprints. That's where he can cut it at the very, very top, and of course he'll keep his distance races going as well.
But we're unlikely to see Andrew Young in the on the Alpe d'Huez, which is a profile course that does not suit a man of his size.
No, that's right, and I think it was always the strategy, the plan to withdraw him after yesterday and then off up to Sweden to have a look at the courses this weekend in the FIS race in Falun. Very sensible.
So Skobelev is away. Devon Kershaw of Canada not having his best season by any stretch, which is a shame for Devon Kershaw, but the Canadians have still got Alex Harvey to cheer on, and Alex Harvey well positioned, 5th place, and actually he's done pretty well in the Tour over the years. I know he withdrew halfway through the Tour last year, but Alex has got so much potential. It would just needs to a percentage point, and he'll be right up there with the best of the Norwegians.
Absolutely. And Devon, of course, he's come 4th in the past. He's set some of he's won stages. It's pretty good racing from the Canadians. And Babikov, of course, setting out now. He had the fastest time up the final climb on Alpe d'Huez.
Another 34-year-old. As long as you keep the training going, you can keep competing at the highest level. I think the difficulty comes when you take a season or 2 off and then you try and get back to that level.
Difficult. I mean, a lot of these athletes, so many thousands of hours of training the engine. You can come back. The base is always going to be there.
Martin Jaks of the Czech Republic. 10 kilometres the distance, so it's short and sharp for the men in terms of a classic race, and no real opportunity to take it steady over the first couple of kilometres. You've really got to hit that hill very hard early on and hope that you recover on the descent back down to the stadium in time for the next ascent.
Well, you're right, that the descent, the profile of this track, 2.2 kilometres, well 2.1, we're still climbing from the stadium, and then it is an easy journey back into the stadium. Easy is never easy in cross country, but you get opportunities to breathe, to recover a little without work.
Well, considering it's uphill to 2.1 kilometres, 5:17 is a very healthy time. 5:15 even better, set by Baumann of Switzerland.
I think as Andrew Newell gets, Curtin Pearl gets on the start line, I think this is one of the few days, Patrick, where the tracks will remain very, very equal for everybody. You know, everyone's starting over a time scale, well, what of 35 minutes, and I don't think there'll be much change at all in the glide factor in the track.
And one of the differences between classic and skating is that the classic skiing does very little damage to the track. You can see the skis are kept in the spores all the way through, and provided no one skates, there tends not to be any loose snow in the track at all, and so the tracks do tend to survive that little bit longer. The only section where that's not the case is when you have it very steep and they have to go into the herringbone.
Yes, and there's only a couple of sections where they have to do that. At -4 here, -4, -5, the high points -5. The conditions are going to be very equal. A little bit of glazing in the tracks, ice forming, but it's not going to affect the grip underneath the skis.
Did you think that was the temperature they had on the screen?
I didn't see it.
Oh.
But what was it?
Well, it was -4.8, and that was the margin.
Oh, no, temperature in the stadium -4, and at highest point in the track -5.
Yeah. Lucas Bergel now for Germany. Quick start from him. Well, it's nice to see some sunshine, and the athletes will certainly be enjoying that. They'd like to see a little bit more snow as well. And also mentioned an email from Andrew in Montana. He said they've had over 2 feet fall in the last couple of days out there. Beautiful champagne powder, just making us envious. Europe surely will get it. And the trend, actually, Mike, over the last few years is that the snow's coming later but staying longer.
Has been, hasn't it? Right through till May. Some great conditions. April, very good. May with the depth of snow falling often. In March, it lasts all the way through. This looks very good from Yaparov. A strong start. Anderson's no slouch, and this is competitive. Oh, maybe not. It's certainly going to be under the time just.
3.1 inside, so the time coming down. I wonder whether they'll beat 5 minutes for that first 2.1 kilometres. That might be a dangerous tactic, because remember, they've got to do the climb again. Only one bonus on offer today. That's at the finish, Mike. 15, 10 and 5 for first, second and third. Sheila, one of our correspondents, saying that the bonuses are far too big. They favour the people who win. That's what they're meant to do. And no wonder Bjørgen's doing so well, because she's picking up maximum bonus every single time.
I'm a little bit in agreement with Sheila. I think that if your name's Bjørgen and you've got this big advantage of going last, as we see with Northug, you're rewarding the guys that are on absolute form. You know, maybe give it 5 seconds, 3 seconds and 1 second. Let's keep it as tight as possible.
I wonder what Hannes Dotzler thinks. He hasn't picked up any bonuses and consequently finds himself 2 minutes 22 behind in the Tour after 3 phases. 4 still to go. What a dynamic double poling action from Dotzler.
All the athletes, Patrick, making sure they're stepping outside of the cut tracks. It's glazed there, or it's faster running there. Everybody reading the tracks well, although he's now in the tracks.
Now, we haven't had a peek in the waxing huts, but what do you think they'll be putting on the base of the ski, considering it's a short race at 10 kilometres?
I've tried to have a look at this. I think you could get away with a normal grip wax, stick wax. It just depends how much ice has been forming in the track. The technicians over the last 3 hours have made that call. Would you expect a tiny layer of cluster underneath? Probably not.
And how much money are you going to put on the fact that Northug will go without wax?
Hey,
it's a possibility, isn't it? But I think the climb, I think the fact that they're climbing twice might persuade him that a bit of stick wax would help. Maurice Magnificat starting for France, and the French lacking anyone in the top 20 of the standings, and Magnificat at 26 and 2:17 behind. I think they need the Falcadas to come and do the Tour de Ski next year. But of course, biathlon starts again today, so the programmes clash.
Well, remember, Martin Fourcade did say he'd be racing World Cup this season, World Cup cross country, but his little health issues through the summer changed his mind.
Yeah, I think that was I was all for him trying a bit of cross country. I think the idea of it was to give himself a challenge. He was finding it too easy to win the biathlon World Cup, and he wanted a challenge, but what did he have? Glandular fever. That put him back, and sensibly deciding that the biathlon tour was enough.
Well, when you have 2 months unsettled training, it really does make you change plans.
Now, a chance for the Huntly Ski Club to give a cheer. This is Andrew Musgrave, who comes from just outside Aberdeen, and he's having another very, very good season. What can he produce today? It's not his favoured technique. Welcome back to Toblach Dobbiaco in the north-eastern corner of Italy, not far from Cortina. We're not far from Anterselva, where the biathlon tour goes in a couple of weeks' time. It is a stunningly beautiful part of the world, Mike. Certainly recommend, if anyone wants to come and watch some live cross-country, this is the sort of location to come and to go, because there are so many tracks that you can go out and try the skiing yourself.
Totally, and I think it's the terrain in this valley, if you're new to cross-country skiing, it's easy. The atmosphere is very relaxed. The track profiles are gentle, so you can certainly learn your skills here with a little glass of wine in the evening.
I think some of our viewers might argue with the fact that you say it's easy. There's not a lot easy about cross-country skiing. Two facts. Firstly, you're using just about every muscle group in the body, and that's why it's always at the top of the scale of the most demanding sports. And secondly, you're standing on a pair of skis that are attached by a little bar at the front of your shoe, and the ski's only 4.5 centimetres wide. So you've got to learn the skills as well.
You have, and so many people who watch this on television, on Eurosport, who have then gone on to try it, they've said it's unbelievably difficult. They realise it's a tough sport, but then when they come back after an hour of their first cross-country skiing, every muscle, and they feel great because the oxygen flowing through the body and every muscle having been used, you're on a high after it.
Tritcher starting for Austria. But the other thing, the heart of the sport, technically, once you start to master it, you get better and better and better, so you start to enjoy it.
But it's addictive as well, isn't it? Because no matter what your name is, Dotzler or Northug, there are areas where you can continue to make improvement, and that's why, like Björn Dahlin in biathlon, he seems to keep on improving at age 41.
Yeah, I think you certainly need to take an approach like British cycling, who are looking at improving by 0.5%, and that's a success story. In skiing, there are so many factors. You say it could be the equipment, it could be your technique, it could be your ability to climb hills. There are so many factors that you can just look at and improve. And downhill skiing, of course, is one of them. And we don't need to mention who needs to work on that.
And that's the easy money part of the improvement game, isn't it? The downhill skills, you're losing less energy, so it's just repetitions of fast reactive movements. Transferring the body weight on these very skinny skis is not easy. Double poling.
I don't see a lot of I have a feeling that Maurice Magnificat has gone without wax. Well, that's a bold move, and if he tries it, he's certainly taken time out of Tamyov, but we would have expected him to close 20 seconds down on the Estonian anyway.
But he's ahead of anyone else to this point, and there's some good names ahead of him.
And this is when he's going to benefit, because on the uphill you'd have expected him to be slower. He's at the top of the climb. He should be some 15-20 seconds clear of everyone by the time he comes into the stadium.
Hey, brave move to just use arm power is quite phenomenal. Then Northug, we'd expect, probably will.
But what does that do for tomorrow, which is another tough race?
If you're super loading one part of your body, getting lactic acid through your arms, it's the same as, well, you feel as fatigued after it as if you were using your leg power only.
But it's not as if Northug would have decided today to do it. He'll have had the race plan in place for months. Bezmetnik for Russia. Good classic skier, could be his day. Here comes Andrew Musgrave, and anything Maurice Magnificat can do, Musgrave can do as well, but he's just that 9 seconds slower. It's not a bad start, Mike, but you can already see that he's starting to fatigue. The technique of the double pole is not as efficient there with Musgrave. He's having to use all his body weight, and it looks to me as though the key muscles for the double pole, the triceps, the lats, are starting to tire.
Well, I think probably that the wax isn't working well. I don't think that was a clear decision.
Oh, you think that's a...
I think that's possibly a wax, and,
okay.
And maybe with Magnificat as well. We saw Magnificat diagonal striding to begin with, so maybe the wax is not working well.
Well, maybe a quick call to Roy Young, the British team coach, is required, and we'll find out for you as soon as possible whether that is the case. You can see with number 26, Chris-Andre Jespersen, looking very fluent on the uphill. Nice, typical classic Norwegian style, little slip there, but that was probably technical as opposed to the actual wax. The place you would expect to see them slipping is in the sunny sections where the track is that much warmer.
That is so true. Pellegrino taking the black bib away from Halvorsen for within the tour for the person who is the best sprinter. There's not that much sunshine on the snow on the track. It's in the shade here mainly. Good to see another part of the track. Yaparov, that's of course an early number, bib number 8, but 20 seconds ahead of his teammate. I'd expected more of the Russians, Patrick. They had the Eastern European Cup before coming here. I thought they'd be on better form.
19 minutes into the race and time for Danny Rickardson of Sweden to get underway. He needs to claw back a few places, lying 18th in the Tour at the moment. He's 1:39 off the Tour leaders. He's got a couple of slower skiers ahead of him. He's got Perillard of France, who's not had a good run so far. 48, I'm sure you recognise as Eldar Roning. Could be his day to make a move, Mike.
Certainly, when it comes to classic and running, they connect well. He still favours it. He's improved massively on his freestyle, but this is his key technique.
Yeah, and he's brilliant at classic. And thanks to Susan for getting in touch, as always, reminding us that it was Frode Estil that won the 50 kilometres in the 50k in the World Championships back in 2005. Estil, what a class act he was. And he was a man who broke poles and managed to come back through the race.
He did, and that happened also in 2006 at the Olympic Games. He broke a ski and a pole.
And finished second.
Lost 55 seconds to the pack and went on to finish second. Brilliant. Chernusov, he must have felt at home yesterday, Patrick. Of course, married Selina Gasparin this summer, and she's Swiss, and he did very well yesterday, Chernusov.
Susan also wanted to know how Claudia Niestadt was, who had an issue in the last, not in Val Muster, but in the last of the races in Oberstdorf. We try to check up, no news as yet as to what happened, but hopefully we'll see her racing again soon. She will take no further part, obviously, in the Tour de Ski.
Knockler, the Dietmar Knockler. I think that the young, the talented junior world champion, 21-year-old De Fabiani, will do well again today. We saw him go so well in the 15 kilometre 2 days ago. Sveen, well, he wasn't given much warning for a start in the Tour de Ski. Hadn't expected it. He had to readjust his Christmas plans because, of course, Didrik Tunseth had his appendix operation and was doing so well. And I think Tunseth would have been a real contender for the title here. 10 seconds off the pace for Sveen. That's not a great start at only 2 kilometres.
So that's 32 through 2 kilometres. Mike, where does Musgrave stand at the moment? It's not a bad time that he's put in. I think he's still in. Is he still in the top 10?
He just having a look. 12th position, 10 seconds off the pace.
Well, that will do nicely at this stage of the race, but remember the big names still to come. Here is one of them, Bezmertnik of Russia, looking very solid. I love this Russian style. It's sort of halfway between the German and the Norwegian styles, isn't it, Mike? It's fluent, but it's strength orientated.
And it reminds me, well, way back 1984, Zimyatov and Zavialov, it reminds me of that long reach, that long and explosive kick that they put into their technique. The pole length has increased though.
Filjanin now for Russia. Now the leaders, so who have we got who we feel hasn't got any wax on? Morrison Magnificat, we need to pick him up at 5k to see how well he descends the hill. That of course is Alex Harvey just getting his transponder fitted to the leg for the exact timing at the finish. Rahima for Estonia getting underway.
Another one who appears to have just gone waxless, so double pole power. It's a tough ask for 10 kilometres, only arm power.
Yeah, and I think although you may do well today, I think you could pay a price tomorrow. You might even pay a price at the end of the weekend trying to climb the Alpe d'Huez when you really do need lots of arm power. So, Marcus Hellner, or Hellner Marcus if you want to be European. What a star he is, of course, the world sprint champion back in 2011 in Oslo. That was probably his biggest moment, but he's got a huge potential. Hasn't really shown it this year, so we're waiting for him to kick into full gear, but he doesn't want to be on form for another 2-3 weeks.
Without a doubt, and Hellner, he's using this to raise his form, I think, to get himself up for the World Champs.
Pellegrino in the black bib. When we come back from this short break, we'll explain what the different colour bibs mean. Welcome back to Italy. We're coming towards the latter stages of the start sheet here in the men's 10-kilometre classic. A number of the skiers are going to be finished before the last man, Petter Northug, is away. And I expect we'll have seen 15-20 finishers by the time Northug starts his race. Simeon Hamilton, who did pretty well in the sprint yesterday in Val Moster. I think that was probably his highlight of the tour. I wonder what he can do now.
Well, Magnificat, the arms, the tempo is becoming slower and slower. Yes, this is a steep climb, but you do want to try and keep the tempo up. But hey, after this length of racing, 6.7 kilometres.
Yeah, and Magnificat is struggling second time up. I think it doesn't bode well for Andrew Musgrave, who has either got the wrong wax on or he's gone waxless. And he looked pretty tired at the top of the hill the first time round.
And the jury will be out there today making sure those lads that are double poling are not skating.
So the blue bib of Leivo Niskanen, and the ideal opportunity to explain all the different coloured bibs and the flashes we see opposite certain athletes' names. This is for the benefit of Alexander, who's been watching it for the last few days now and picks us up on the fact that we haven't really explained all the bibs. Well, here we go. The blue bib is for the leader in the Tour of the under-23s. The black bib is for the leader of the sprint standings. The red bib is the leader of the Tour overall. And on the results, when you see the yellow flash, that is the leader of the overall World Cup, who is, of course, Martin Jonsrud-Sundby.
That's right, and whoever wins the 7-day race tour over 9 days will pick up 400 points.
So, De Fabiani, who produced a good run, so nearly claimed the second leg of the tour in Oberstdorf, but Halvorsen, I think, unintentionally obstructed De Fabiani, and he just lost his balance at the critical moment. But what a finish it was. Great to see Petter Northug back to his sprinting style. So Baumann holds on to his lead at 23.49, but it's not going to last long because Yaparov of Russia is on the way in. He started number 8, obviously, 22.5. That sets a realistic target. Good ski. And now if Yaparov's going well, the skis are good. That's good news for Belov.
That is good news for Belov, and the Russian team certainly got wax on the base of their skis.
Skobelev started 30 seconds behind Yaparov, and he's going to finish about 34 behind him. And so Yaparov holds on to top spot. We could see Russia going 1, 2 and 3. We do. That's where they finished in the Olympic 50k. Richard sending us an email on that subject, touchy subject. I know exactly where you're coming from, Richard, and please understand that it's not always possible to discuss our thoughts on certain races, but it was a spectacle out there in Sochi, the men's 50, Russia getting 1, 2 and 3. He also said that he's finding the men's tour more interesting. I still don't think Marit Bjørgen has it in the bag, Mike, in the women's race. I know she's got a good lead, but I just think Heidi Weng looks fantastic, and we all know what Therese Johaug can do on the final day.
Oh no, it's wide. I was going to say it's not wide open. The door is partly open because fatigue begins to set in after the sprint day, and maybe it will affect Bjørgen, who's been on great form.
And in the past, certainly way back to 2006, what Bjørgen's only weakness is trying to put a succession of races together. 4, 5, 6. You know, I expect to see her do well today, but will she be good tomorrow? Will she be good on Saturday? That's still a question mark.
But when we hear her, as Sundby gets his warm-up gear off ready for his start line, when we hear what Bjørgen says, everything about her is positivity. You can tell when she's not so confident in how she's going to perform by her interviews, and everything now is upbeat, praising the world, praising her ski technicians, praising everybody, and she's really upbeat. I think she's in great form.
Sundby just going through his warm-up process. Here is one of the potential winners. Certainly started the tour as the favourite alongside Sundby of Norway. Dario Colonia, 3-time Olympic champion. You have to admire this guy. He had so many injury problems last year, but somehow he came back to produce his very best on the best day of the year out in the 15k in Sochi.
What an amazing athlete I think he was to achieve that. He only had one World Cup outing prior to the Olympic Games, his only race, big race of the season, and well, he came second place then. I thought he might win that one as well, but 2 golds at the Olympics is amazing.
Well, he set his sights on the Tour de Ski this year. That's his priority. He lies in 6th place. It's unfamiliar territory for him at this stage. Sundby signs up, so does Halvorsen, and now the real race starts. These men know that every second they gain or lose today could prove crucial. Niskanen looking comfortable. This time's going to be okay. Will he be just over that 5-minute mark? I think he will.
I'm just looking at Bersmennik's time at the half distance. This is at 2.1, and it looks like Bersmennik has gone off very hard. He's dropped back in terms of pacing a little by the time we get to the 5 kilometre.
So leading at 5 kilometres, as we have a look at Niskanen, is Rickardson of Sweden ahead of Bersmennik. Yaparov of Russia in 3rd. We've seen him finish and he's in a good position. Jespersen of Norway 4, Magnificat in 5.
Alex Harvey underway. He's got to feel good about his form and his ability to close the gap on Northug. He did, I think, muck up on the sprints yesterday. A tiny little tactical error costing him so much.
Yeah, and he's now 54.2 off the pace of the race leaders. Remember, he was in 2nd place at the start of yesterday, having put in a good race in Oberstdorf. 64, Yevgeny Belov, the best positioned Russian in the Tour de Ski at the moment. He still has some 38.7 seconds to make up on Petter Northug, but if he produces his very best today, he could close that down to single figures.
3 golds and 5 silvers at the Junior World Championships. What a talent this man is. I think they over-raced him initially when he came through into the World Cup as a senior.
It's interesting having a 180-degree turn so early on in the race, isn't it, Mike? And you get to see how agile some of the skiers or how much they lack it. And the other thing it affects is how fast you go down that first 70-80 metres, because the faster you go, the harder it is to take that first corner.
It reminded me, as we look at the staring Northug, it reminded me a little bit of up in Ruka, the first World Cup, where there's a very sharp turn, but this is even sharper.
Is it going to be Sundby's day, or will it be Halvorsen's day? What can the big man do? 4 World Cup podiums. He's never won a World Cup, and somewhat bizarrely, these races don't count as World Cups because they count as Tour Stage wins. You have to win the whole tour to gain 1 World Cup win.
It is quite strange, but I suppose if you're looking at the sprint races, certainly all the best sprinters in the world are not here during the 9 days of the Tour de Ski.
Deerhout just going past his teammate Sveen. That could be a help for Sveen.
Definitely a chance for opportunity for Sveen to tuck in behind him, try and stay stride for stride if he can.
Yeah, Deerhout's skis look to be going a whole lot better, but remember they're on different laps, so no wonder Sveen looking a little bit tired. Is this Danny Rickardson trying to go the whole way with his arms? I think it is. Either that or his wax has come off. Yeah, big ask.
This course profile maybe it does allow it, because you've got 2 kilometres of extremely hard work in the arms. Then you get these recovery periods. The course maybe does allow it, but it's still a very tough task.
Well, there's the yellow bib. He doesn't wear it today because it is the Tour de Ski, but it means that Sundby is the leader of the overall World Cup. Bersmennik already threw in 4:58. Polteranen 11 seconds off the pace. Looks like he's trying to double pole as well. Now a question, Mike. When you get to the top of the hill for the 2nd time, how far behind the leaders can you afford to be? And how much money have you put on this man trying to double pole?
Oh, he's bound to double pole it. He really is bound to double pole. I think you need no more than 11, 12 seconds before the final descent if you are on just double poling power. The glide factor will be that little bit better.
Morris Magnificat just in. We'll try and update you on his finishing position. He's gone into second, 4.2 off, so he's gained a lot of ground on the downhill. He's gained about 10 seconds on the way down the hill. So if Petter Northug can be somewhere around the leader's time, well, look at that. Looks to me as though he's got a bit of wax on. Certainly for the early stages. Maybe he's gone very thin. Dario Colonia also going with wax. 8.4 off the pace at the moment.
Welcome back. Chance to have a look at Jespersen coming into the final straight, and it's going to be very, very close. Likely to take the lead ahead of Yaparov. And Andrew Musgrave has come in as well in 5th position, just ahead of Jespersen. Well, he has gone into the lead, 3.1 seconds ahead of Yaparov.
64, Yevgeny Belov up to the 2.1. Let's see how the time is. He's just a couple of seconds slower than Dario Colonia. Down in 10th place at the moment. That could be sensible pacing from the Russian. Remember, he's well placed in the Tour, lying in 4th place behind Kalle Halvarsson of Sweden. Russia with a win in the Tour 2 years ago. Sundby, the defending champion. Dario Colonia, the man who's won it more than anyone else. No Lucas Bauer this year, Mike.
Well, and Lucas has won it 2 times in the past. I wonder if it's just a deliberate avoid these very tough 9 days and build himself up for the World Championships. He was disappointed with his early season form, Bauer.
Do you like Halvarsson's technique there, number 66?
I do. It's robotic a little, but he's getting his leading through from the hips, slight rotation, getting as much drive into the hill as possible. And look at his time. It's brilliant.
That is very good from Halvarsson. Yeah, I like the way he drives the leg forward. I think that's a key part. You want the ski to be moving as fast as possible as it makes contact with the snow. Eldar Roning a little smoother.
I think in a distance race, we've got to go as far back as 2012 when Roning won the 50-kilometre in Oslo, his last big distance win. But we know he's so good in Classic and so often producing for the Norwegian relay team.
Yeah, I think Roning's is probably the most classic of all the techniques out on the tracks at the moment. And go to any tour race in Norway and you'll see about 1,000 people skiing like this. A little bit stiff in the hips.
A little bit. He's getting older.
Affects us all. Now, Sundby, picture of concentration.
He's just so sparky, so dynamic. I like his style, but he'll be a little concerned, 8-9 seconds off the pace.
It's not bad. Bespectacled, I said. Bearded, brilliant. He's certainly a man who's improved over the last, 24 months.
Everything about him is complete. I know he's got his young family as well. He balances his training with his family life and does it so well. And such a positive guy.
I think you need an understanding family to balance it the way he does. He lives skiing. Everything is about skiing. He's probably the Bjorndalen of the cross-country skiing world.
Probably is. And maybe lives slightly easier with it. He allows himself to maybe have a little more fun.
Now, what is Petter Northug going to do? We suspected he'd double pole. We were completely wrong on that. He knows that he needs more than the 25-second lead that he currently has over Sundby to take into Sunday's final race.
This is, he's getting all the way along this track, the split times from the fastest timers, and of course it's Bersmetnik to this point.
He often does well in stage 4, but at the moment, Petter Northug is some way behind, and I'm wondering already whether the output yesterday, the inevitable exhaustion is starting to affect him.
Has to be, and all those, and then Sundby as well, who went through, here's Bersmetnik, all those who went through to the final in the sprints will be suffering more today than the rest.
So Jespersen still leading, just over 23-23. That's a good race. I was just trying to think, in Oberstdorf, the time for the 10k mass start was over 26 minutes, and the women were up around 30 minutes.
Slightly wetter conditions that day, and the conditions harder, colder snow, as Niskanen 8.3 off. This is another wonderful performance from the young Finn. Yeah, the snow, the glide factor today a little better than 2 days ago in Oberhof, 3 days ago in Oberstdorf. Still don't get the feeling for the steepness of this hill. Looking down it at the moment, 200 meters downhill.
Well, there you see the standings at 2.1. Besmetnik, Rickardson, Halvorsen. Danny Rickardson starting early today, and Sundby down in 11th.
Besmetnik is in the lead ahead of Rickardson, Halvorsen. Rönning is 4, Jespersen 5, Niskanen also 5, Colonia 7. And
now Danny Rickardson, when we saw him at 5k, he was in second place to Alexei Poltaranin, and he was just ahead of Besmetnik. As far as Jespersen is concerned, he had a 9-second lead, so Rickardson should be able to claim this one. He's got 75 meters to go, 20 seconds on the clock to his advantage. He's going to be comfortably inside, and he could have a margin of some 11 seconds. Great finish by Rickardson, 11.7, and we have Sweden ahead of Norway. But for how long?
Well, Poltarainen's out there in the earlier stages at half distance, was just ahead of Rickardson by 1.8 seconds. But we know Poltarainen's using only arm power. Will they fatigue? For big, tall, heavy athletes, it's a huge task to just use the arms. Dear Haug. The difference with wax, the bow on the ski, there's a waxing pocket there, and you put the wax on over about 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters, which allows you the grip and brings the legs into play. If you wax the ski from tip to tail, you can't get that grip. It's a slidey wax, so you have to use your arms.
And the idea is that when you're standing on both skis, the camber of the ski, the bow of the ski, lifts that wax section off the snow so it doesn't make contact. And if you don't get the right strength ski, you're going nowhere.
Exactly, and this is Poltarainen, who is a wonderful classic skier. I'm amazed he's gone just double pulling power, arm power, but it seems to be working. I think he'll fatigue in the later stages of this race, though.
Well, I'm just wondering whether you were right early on, Mike, when you said I think some of these athletes are losing their wax and the wax is no longer working. When the conditions get warmer, the wax tends not to work. And just in case you find it extraordinary that you can put a wax on a ski and it grips to the snow. Well, if you imagine a snow crystal, the colder it is, the harder that crystal is. And you're trying to find a wax that is just a fraction softer than the snow crystal itself.
That's right, for the sharp edges, that crystal to grip into the wax, and you've got waxes all the way up and down the temperature spectrum.
So if the wax is too hard, the crystal doesn't pierce it and you don't get any grip. If it's too soft, the crystals pierce it and stick to it like glue, and you get a build-up of snow under the ski, and obviously you then stop gliding altogether.
And they can work these waxes in increments of even half a degree, 1 degree, and that's the difficulty of waxing in these conditions. But it looks like the Swiss team have got it just about right.
Yeah, Dario Colonia looking very smooth indeed, and he's got a decent time. 14.36 from Besmetnik of Russia. Colonia's not going to match that, but he's going to be in the top 3, and that puts him in a strong position with the advantage of knowing what he's got to do on the closing stages. Just over 2.5 kilometers to go for Dario Colonia. I think it's looking pretty good.
To the leader, and Colonia has only 3 seconds.
Colonia's moved up since we last saw him at 5k, Mike, from an 8-second deficit. He's cut that to 3, so obviously accelerating. Any news on Nortug through 5 kilometers? Has he made that point yet?
Hasn't quite made that point yet. Just Halvorsen, bib 60. In fact, Belov, bib 64 is through, and he's in 3rd place. Belov 3.5 seconds behind.
And Halvorsen, who started 66, has produced the fastest time at 5k, so obviously he's hoping to make a move. At the moment, Sweden lead with Rickardson, Viljanin down into 7th place.
I think I would have liked to have seen a 15 kilometres today, Patrick. I know the sprints were yesterday, but those who didn't make it through to the final would have maybe had a slightly bigger advantage on those who gained a minute making it through to the final of the sprints yesterday.
Well, I take your point, but I think there's been a concerted effort to take some of the distance and some of the work out of the Tour de Ski so it doesn't affect the rest of the season. So all those wanting medals at the World Championships just don't boycott the Tour de Ski. We cannot have a situation like that.
It's true, but over 10Ks we're going to see such small margins. You know, no athlete today can smash the field, therefore give themselves an advantage into tomorrow. Yes, they get an advantage for winning today, and that's a 15-second bonus. Second place gets 10 and third place 5 seconds.
The closer the margins, the more exciting the race. and that's the business we're in. 3.9 for Belov.
He's
good
picking.
start. Yeah, this is a good move. So if he gains, say, 5 seconds over everyone else, you then add 5 seconds to that. So he could claw back 10 seconds. And Belov is only 22, 38 seconds off the mark. So it puts him into contention for a top 3 finish. Hellner into 13th, 38.8. We're still not seeing anything near the best that Hellner can produce, but the day will come. He's just got to work it out.
Well, he's such a big occasion athlete, isn't he? World Championships, Olympic Games, Hellner's name is always there.
47-48 coming in together. Schneider of Switzerland with Eldar Roning behind him. Roning's taken some 29 seconds out of Schneider. 5.9 into second place. And the Scandinavians dominating once again. But Belov is out there for Russia. He could still take the top spot here. Halverson, who was leading when we last saw him at 5K. Oh, the wrong side of the clock, but it's not a bad time. Halverson just 0.9 down on Belov. Surely he'll be able to pull that back. And 65 is Tim Schanker, who's benefiting from the work of Halverson.
Gluing himself in the slipstreams. And this is going to raise his game without a doubt if he can stay with the pace.
Yeah, that could bring the German a top 15 place if he can stay with the Swede. Here comes Sundby. He looks to have turned it up on the second lap as well. Belov on 14:32.7. Still a few metres to go for Sundby before the clock will stop at 6.7. Is he going to match it? 15 seconds to pass the wand. He's striding it out. It's great skiing from Sundby at the moment. He's left Kresma in his wake. But I think it's going to be a red time for Sundby, which means he's still got work to do. Let's have a look. 1.6, it's close. So we've got Belov there. We've got Rickardson, of course, who's moved up the order. We've got Halverson, who's up there as well. A fantastic race for the line, and still we're waiting for Petter Northug to come through, but Northug by 5 kilometres was some way off the pace.
Gleich auch Nivo Niskanen aus Finland. Arrivato Ditan Leclerc così pone in 18ª posizione.
17th place for Northug. Apologies for the delay, just trying to track him down. 20 seconds off the pace at the halfway stage, so looks as though his lead is in danger. If he finishes outside the top 3, no bonuses for Northug today. Niskanen across the line. He'll hang on to his leader's bib of the under-23 rankings. That was Halverson with Schanker glued to the pack like a German limpet. And now finally Schanker just struggling to stay with it. Here is Northug. Well, considering he started just a minute behind Sundby, I think he's not really made much improvement on that 20 seconds. He's cut it to 18.4. He's not going to win. He's not going to win, but he needs to claim back some 5 or 6 seconds on the way down the hill.
I wonder right now if he is regretting the fact that he selected his skis with the grip wax underneath. You would just feel that using his double polling power, he might give slightly better.
I think he's regretting the fact that he had to race so often yesterday in that sprint, and he put so much into that final to try and get the win.
He did, and Sundby's got a great advantage here. He's getting the split times off the athlete who started 2 minutes ahead of him, and that's got to help you. Well, it's still 1.6.
What was it last time? 1.8 the margin, so he's doing okay.
So an easier part of the track here for Sundby. He'll get some recovery, and he's going to the next climb. Attack so strong to try and pull out 1.6 disadvantage back. So
Belov still the man to beat. number 64. Remember, 4th place in the Tour de Ski at the moment. He could be moving into the top 3 today if he can stay strong over the closing stages. The current leader in this race, 23:12.2, Danny Rickardson of Sweden. There you see the standings at 6.7. Beloff, Halvorsen, Sundby, 3 of the big names, but outside the top 10, Petter Northug, who was some 18 seconds down at that stage. 18.4, 13th place. Alex Harvey also with work to do. The Dolomites high above the town of Toblach Dobiaco. As we see Polteranen coming into the finish, 23:12 is going to be beaten. He's only got some 50 metres to go, and Kazakhstan are going to have the leader. But for how long? What a great descent by Polteranen. 23:12, absolutely smashed. The 23-minute barrier has been broken for the 10 kilometres here.
Well, he went without the grip wax, and he's such a good classic athlete as Polteranen, and at the moment it really has paid off for him. But those arms are super loaded now.
Polteranen 7th at the final split before the finish. He was 10 seconds off the pace, and he was some 3 seconds behind this man, Dario Colonia. So we're about to find out how well these two men have descended the hill. Will Polteranen hold on to the lead with 22:51 on the clock? It looks as though he's had a sensational finish, because Dario Colonia has still got over 100 metres to go, and he's only got 1 second to do it. Even he can't do that.
And that's the advantage of having no grip wax underneath. Polteranen had pure glide on his skis, and the grip wax is slowing down Colonia in the descent to the stadium just a little.
Well, Polteranen 1 minute and 4 off the pace in the Tour standings, so he's going to make some gains today, there's no doubt about that. But will he get close enough to challenge for a top 3 finish? That could well be a winning time. A lot of the coaches think so. Dario Colonia,
you can see the wax on the base of his skis,
into
clister
second
underneath.
Place. Danny Rickardson pushed down to 3, Deerhaug in 4. But Mike, how much more does it take out of you, an estimate of percentage-wise, to just double pole the whole thing?
It's hard to quantify. You build up the same amount of lactic, and it's a brave man that will do it, because it can catch you up. There's much smaller muscle groups, and the payback, I think, is more expensive than if you're using your arms and your legs together.
And we think just in terms of arms, but you've got to bear in mind that the torso is doing most of the work.
So much, and even your quads as well, because it's like doing small squats. Every time you double pole, you're like squatting through your own body weight.
Alex Harvey, who was found wanting at the 6.7 kilometre split outside the top 10 positions. He was down in 12th position at 6.7, 17 seconds off the pace of the leaders, and Harvey still 17 seconds at 7.5 kilometres. So he's let the time go on the descent. I think that's a measure of just how quick Polteranen was. And Harvey, is he going to hold on to a top 10? Just, but he's likely to be pushed out, because we still have Beloff, Halvorsen, Sundby and Northug to cross the line.
Well, the last check, Northug was some 21 seconds off the pace. He's a great descender. He's great at double poling power, but he's got wax on the base of his skis.
Well, this is looking good. Polteranen still leads. It's going to be very close. I think Polteranen will hold it just half a second in it. Beloff finishing strongly. He goes into second place. He wanted those bonuses. He wanted them badly, but he knew exactly what he had to do.
And he gave it to everything. His body could not have given more, and he was so disappointed. Half a second over 10 kilometres, small margins.
Well, a good effort by Beloff, frustrated, but when I think he sees that he's likely to beat Colonia, quite close between himself and Colonia, but I think he will beat Colonia, and I think he'll beat Halvorsen, and I think he'll beat Northug. I'm not sure whether he's going to claim the scalp of Sundby, who was in second place last time we saw.
but well done to Polterainen. He's turned around a 10-second deficit at the moment into his advantage.
Well, here comes Halverson, and the last time we saw him, he was only 0.6 of a second slower than Beloff, who lies in second place, and he's not going to match Beloff, he's not going to match Polterainen, so a loss, a small one by Halverson on the closing stages, but he loses some 8-9 seconds on the descent.
And again, a switch of 10 seconds at the last checkpoint, only a couple of kilometres up the track.
Well, your estimate of 11 seconds, just about spot on for the descent from the high point of the course. Now, Sundby, can he do it? We haven't had a time split on him for a while. We can tell you that he was 1.6 off the pace of Beloff at the top of the hill. I'm trying to remember if Beloff double-poled.
Nope, he had the grip
he was
wax.
waxed, but he didn't look heavy on the wax because he was gliding very well. He also lost some 8-9 seconds to Polterainen on the descent to the stadium. So here comes Sundby. He's got 100 metres. He's got to do it at the same speed as Usain Bolt. I'm not sure he's going to manage that at this stage of a 10,000 metre race, but he could well be going into the top three and pushing Halverson down a place. So Sundby looking for that time of 9.4 outside. He's well inside that, and Sundby of Norway goes into the podium positions, and now we just await the arrival of Petter Northug, who is the last contender for the Tour title, who's out on the tracks.
So at the moment, 5-second bonus for Sundby, and I think it's likely to stay that way. Northug was surely too far off the pace at our last checkpoint.
Yeah, 18 seconds the margin last time we saw Petter Northug. In fact, it had gone from 18 to 21 in the space of a kilometre. So Petter Northug is a spent force, but he's got to push for every second, Mike, because he could be losing the Tour lead today.
And this isn't him yet. This is, of course, the Russian Ozhentsev.
Now, if it stays as it is, Sundby's going to get 5 very valuable bonus seconds for his efforts today. Has Northug had a sensational descent? He's digging deep. He's digging very deep, trying to catch Volzentsev. I think, was that Volzentsev in front of him?
It is.
I think it was.
Who started 30 seconds ahead of Northug.
Yeah, you would have expected him to catch him at some stage, but it's not happened. So already 12 seconds outside, and if he can stay within 30 seconds, he will go into the top 10. Well, he's going to manage that. Looks as though it's going to be around 8th or 9th, 7th, in fact, for Petter Northug. He's done well to catch Deerhout. He's gained some 15 seconds on him over the last 2 kilometres, but he left it just a fraction too late. Is that the look of a man who's going to win the Tour de Ski? More question marks than we had at the end of yesterday's race in Valmester.
Definitely, and he's given everything. I would imagine he'll regret not going like Polterainen on skis that had no grip wax.
So, no joy for Petter Northug today, off the podium for the first time in the Tour de Ski this season, and he's in 7th place. 22.8 seconds given away in terms of ski time, and he had a 25-second lead. So by my calculations, Sundby is going to be the new Tour leader, but only by 2 or 3 seconds. It's very similar to how it panned out last year. Polterainen the winner today. Well done to him. That was a good call to go without wax, but we'll see how tired he is when it comes to the race tomorrow. Andy Musgrave in 20th place. That's sensational. Another brilliant result. He gets more World Cup points, more recognition, and his success story goes on and on.
He doesn't seem to be tiring. Muzzy, great job once again. Focus is good. Technique is brilliant now on the Classic.
So just to recap, the top 3 here today in Toblach Dobiaco, Polterainen, Beloff and Sundby. Well, hopefully we'll have time to just pick up on the Tour standings after today's race. I think there are a couple of athletes still out there on the course as we have a look at those a little further down. Martin Johansson of Sweden. Just a reminder that Emil Jonsson of Sweden has withdrawn from the Tour after yesterday's sprint race in Valmoster. Federico Pellegrino, the winner yesterday, 56th today. It doesn't matter, he'll still be smiling.
And his 2 wins. He had a win in Davos, he's had a win here in a sprint race. He's on sprinting form for sure.
58 and 60 for the 2 Americans. They'll be disappointed with that. And then Andrew Newell down in 67th position. Storega, who had a good sprint yesterday, 61st. Well, stunning conditions in Toblach in the north of Italy. I'm afraid it's not quite the same in Oberhof. Familiar scenes, misty, windy and warm. But the women's biathlon relay will still go ahead, and that's where Eurosport are off to next.